Welcome. Tonight, we are going on a journey together. A journey that begins at the very edge of the sunlit world, where the air meets the sea, and ends in the silent, velvet heart of the ocean. Before we leave the surface, I invite you to take this moment for yourself. Settle into your space. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. If you enjoy these nightly explorations into the wonders of our world, you are always welcome to subscribe and join us for every new voyage. It's a quiet way to ensure you always have a place to rest your mind. Let's begin by noticing your breath. Don't try to change it just yet. Simply feel the cool air enter and the warm air leave. Imagine that with every exhale, you are sinking just an inch deeper into the softness of your bed. We are leaving the surface now. The world of wind and bright, sharp sunlight is beginning to blur. Above us, the waves are like a ceiling of moving glass, scattering the sun into 1,000 dancing diamonds. But those diamonds are growing smaller now, more delicate, as we drift down into the darkening blue. There is a profound beauty in this transition. The surface of the ocean is a place of constant motion, of energy, and noise. But as we descend, that energy transforms into a heavy, peaceful stillness. The bright turquoise of the shallows, the color of tropical lagoons in summer days, is slowly deepening into a rich royal sapphire. You can feel the temperature of the water shifting just slightly, becoming a cool, consistent, cradling force. There is no wind here, no storms, only the vast, rhythmic pulse of the tides, felt as a gentle swaying that rocks you into a deeper state of relaxation. As the light begins to dim, the world becomes simpler. The distractions of the day fade away. The colors of the rainbow begin to slip away one by one, leaving behind a world of shadow and soft monochromatic beauty. We are moving away from the familiar, away from the sun, and toward the great, quiet mysteries that lie beneath. You are weightless. You are safe. And as the blue deepens, we prepare to enter the layers of the ocean where the sun's reach begins to fail, and the true journey begins. Imagine the water pressing gently against you, not with force, but with the support of a heavy, liquid blanket. The sounds of the atmosphere, the distant hum of a boat, the cry of a bird, are replaced by a low-frequency silence that feels ancient. You're no longer a creature of the land. For these next few hours, you are a part of the deep. The light is changing now. The golden hues are gone. We are entering the realm of the blues, where the water itself acts as a filter, choosing which parts of the world to show us and which to keep in the dark. We are drifting further from the air, further from the noise, and closer to the heart of the world. Take one more slow, deep breath and let the descent begin in earnest. We are currently drifting through the epipelagic zone, a word derived from the Greek for upon the sea. Most people know it simply as the sunlight zone. It is the topmost layer of our world's oceans, extending from the surface down to about 200 meters. In the grand scale of the abyss, it is a thin, shimmering veil, yet it is where the sun works its most vibrant magic. But even here, as we sink further from the air, that magic is changing. The water is becoming a thicker, more deliberate presence around you. If you were to look at your hands now, you would notice the colors of the surface world are beginning to fade and transform. This is because water is a selective filter of light. The long, lazy wavelengths of the color red are the first to be captured and held by the water molecules. They lack the energy to push through the density of the liquid. By the time we reach just 30 meters deep, the reds have vanished, absorbed into the blue. Soon after, the oranges and yellows follow, flickering out like candles in a gentle breeze. This is why, the deeper we go, the more the world is saturated in those calming, meditative shades of indigo and cobalt. The water isn't just reflecting the sky, it is actively stripping away the warmth of the spectrum, leaving only the cool, deep blues to guide our way. It is a gentle process of simplification, a shedding of the day's vibrancy to prepare your mind for the stillness that lies below. As we pass the 100-meter mark, you might notice a subtle shift in the sensation of your own body. There is a magnificent paradox in the deep. As the physical pressure of the water increases, your sense of weightlessness only grows. For every 10 meters we descend, the pressure increases by 1 atmosphere, the equivalent of the weight of the entire Earth's atmosphere pressing down at sea level. And yet, there is no discomfort. You are not being squeezed, you are being supported. Because the human body is largely composed of water, which is incompressible, you are in harmony with the environment around you. You are becoming part of the fluid world, moving with the grace of a shadow through a liquid sky. The pressure feels like a heavy velvet blanket being smoothed over you, anchoring you, letting you know that you are safe in the grip of the ocean. The silence here is becoming more profound. Above us, the surface is a place of wind, breaking waves, and the frantic activity of life. Down here, the water acts as a thick, heavy insulator, muffling the chaos of the world above. It is a hush that feels ancient, like the silence of a vast, empty cathedral. We are leaving the bright, busy neighborhood of the surface and entering the great, quiet corridors of the inner earth. We are now approaching the 200-meter threshold. Looking up, the surface is no longer a bright ceiling, but a fading memory of light. The sun is now a distant, glowing coin, its features blurred by the depth. We are crossing the border from the epipelagic into the mesopelagic, the twilight zone. This is the realm of permanent evening, where the sun's rays are too weak to allow plants to grow, but just strong enough to outline the shapes of the strange and beautiful creatures that call this middle world home. The water is cooler now, the blue is darker, and the journey into the true deep is just beginning. Take a moment to feel the coolness against your skin as we settle into this world of shadows. As we continue our descent, leaving the last hints of the surface world behind, you might feel a gentle change in the environment surrounding you. We are now entering a transition known to scientists as the thermocline. In the upper reaches of the sea, the water is stirred by the wind and warmed by the sun, creating a layer of relative warmth. But here, as we drift deeper, that warmth begins to fade. The temperature drops rapidly in this invisible boundary, moving from the mildness of the surface to the steady, crisp chill of the deep. It is not a biting cold, but rather a refreshing, stabilizing coolness. Imagine it as the feeling of stepping from a humid summer afternoon into the quiet, stone-walled hallway of an ancient library. It is a temperature that invites your body to go still, encouraging your breath to become long and rhythmic. This change marks our entry into a world of incredible stability. Land, we are used to the constant cycle of the seasons, the budding of spring, the heat of summer, the falling leaves of autumn, and the frost of winter. We are accustomed to the unpredictability of the weather and the shifting of the winds. But down here, in the heart of the ocean, the seasons simply do not exist. There is no summer or winter in the deep. The water remains at a near constant temperature, year after year, decade after decade. It is a realm of eternal consistency. This stability creates a profound sense of peace. There is no need for the creatures here to prepare for a coming storm or change in the climate. They live in a world that is always the same, a world that provides a permanent, unwavering cradle for life. Take a deep, slow breath and let the realization of this stillness wash over you. In a life that often feels hurried and ever-changing, there is a deep comfort in knowing that such a place exists, a place of perfect, unchanging stillness. Here, the water doesn't just surround you, it holds you in a state of total equilibrium. The chaos of the world above, the noise of the streets, and the flicker of screens are thousands of feet away. They cannot reach you here. In this vast, liquid cathedral, the only thing that matters is the present moment and the soft, heavy weight of the water supporting your limbs. You're drifting in a space that has looked and felt exactly like this for millions of years and will remain this way for millions more. We are drifting further now, sinking through the final reaches of the twilight. The blues are becoming so dark they are almost indistinguishable from the shadows. We are approaching a significant threshold, the 1,000-meter mark. This is the limit of the sun's reach. As we approach this depth, the very last photon of light, the final faint ghost of a sunbeam, is absorbed by the water and vanishes. Beyond this point, the sun's influence ends completely. We are leaving the world of sight and entering a world of pure sensation, where the day never breaks and the night never ends. It is a transition into the ultimate quiet, the beginning of the true deep. Moving forward, the only light we will see is the light that life creates for itself. Settling into this deepening shadow, we prepare to enter the great midnight of the earth. As we cross that invisible border at 1,000 meters, we officially enter the bathypelagic zone. This name comes from the Greek word bathos, meaning deep, but it is more affectionately and commonly known as the midnight zone. Here, the darkness is absolute. It is a darkness so pure and so complete that it seems to have a physical presence, like a soft, cool touch against your skin. It is a humbling thought to realize that this zone, this vast expanse of shadow, makes up 90% of the habitable space on our entire planet. When we think of life on Earth, we often picture the sun-drenched forests, the wide open grasslands, or the bustling coral reefs. But those environments are merely the thin, bright crust of a world that is mostly made of this, the deep, quiet dark. The midnight zone is the true heart of the Earth's biosphere, a massive, three-dimensional kingdom that stretches for thousands of miles in every direction. There is more room for life here than anywhere else we have ever discovered. I want you to take a moment to imagine this darkness not as a void, but as a heavy velvet blanket. It is a deep, comforting indigo that has finally transitioned into a solid, restful black. Imagine this blanket wrapping around you, tucking you into the safety of the deep. It is a weight that doesn't press uncomfortably against you, but rather holds you in place, grounding you in the stillness. In this space, there is no up or down, no left or right, only the gentle, supportive embrace of the water. You are floating in the center of the world's greatest secret. The physical properties of the midnight zone are defined by their incredible constancy. The temperature here hovers perpetually at around 4 degrees Celsius, or about 39 degrees Fahrenheit. It is just above freezing, a crisp and steady cold that never wavers, regardless of what is happening on the surface. This water has traveled for centuries to reach this point, carrying with it the silent memory of distant polar ice. It is dense, rich with minerals, and completely undisturbed by the winds or the storms of the world above. As you drift deeper into this layer, which extends all the way down to 4,000 meters, you might feel a sense of profound expansion. You are no longer confined by the boundaries of the land. You are part of the greatest volume of living space on the globe. The water here is ancient and wise, moving with a patience that the surface world has long forgotten. It is a place where time seems to stretch and slow, inviting you to let go of the minutes and hours and simply exist within the vast, dark rhythm of the deep. Here, in the heart of the midnight zone, the world is at its most peaceful. As we drift further into this velvet darkness, we begin to encounter one of the most misunderstood aspects of the deep, the pressure. At this depth, roughly 1,000 meters beneath the waves, the weight of the water above is immense. It is more than 100 times the pressure we feel at the surface. If you were to bring a simple styrofoam cup down to this level, the weight of the ocean would shrink it to the size of a thimble, compressing the air out of the material until it became hard and dense. It is a force that is constant, unrelenting, and absolute. Yet, for the creatures that live here, this pressure is not a burden. It is simply the medium of their existence. You see, the reason we feel pressure is because of the air inside our bodies, the pockets of oxygen in our lungs, and the gases in our tissues. In the deep, nature has found a more elegant solution. The inhabitants of the midnight zone are largely made of water and solid tissues that do not compress. They lack the air-filled swim bladders found in surface fish and the delicate, gas-filled lungs of land-dwelling mammals. Because they are composed of the same fluid that surrounds them, they are effectively immune to the weight. They do not feel the pressure because they are part of it. Think of it as a state of perfect biological equilibrium. It is a beautiful, quiet harmony where there is no difference between the inside of a living being and the world outside. There is no internal tension, no struggle to maintain a shape against the environment. To be a creature of the deep is to be entirely at one with your surroundings. In this space, the heavy weight of the ocean doesn't crush, it supports. It holds every cell and every limb in a steady, unwavering embrace. There is a profound sense of security in this, the idea that you can exist in a place of such power by simply letting go of the need to resist it. I invite you to consider this equilibrium as you lie there now. Imagine that any tension you're holding in your shoulders, your jaw, or your hands is like those air pockets we left behind at the surface. As you breathe out, imagine those tensions dissolving, leaving you as fluid and as supported as a creature of the abyss. You are becoming part of your environment, sinking into the soft support of your bed, just as a glass sponge rests upon the sea floor. There is no need to hold yourself up. The world is holding you. As the physical sensation of the water's weight becomes a familiar, comforting presence, your other senses begin to shift. In the absence of light and in the presence of such immense stability, the world becomes defined by something else entirely. We move away from the tactile sensation of the heavy water and into the realm of the auditory. We begin to notice the silence. But in the deep ocean, silence is not merely the absence of sound. It is a different kind of presence altogether. It is a vast liquid stillness that carries the heartbeat of the planet in ways the air never could. Though the world above may be loud and chaotic, down here, the silence is a thick, protective layer that muffles the worries of the sunlit world, preparing us for a different kind of listening. The silence here is not empty. It is a dense, heavy silence that feels almost like a physical presence against your skin. In the thin air of the surface world, sound is often scattered and lost, but here the water acts as a master conductor. Because water molecules are packed so much more tightly than those in a gas, they pass vibrations from one to another with incredible efficiency. Sound in the deep ocean travels nearly 4 times faster than it does through the air, and it can journey for thousands of miles without ever losing its clarity. If you were to listen closely, you wouldn't hear the sharp, frantic noises of the surface. Instead, you would feel the low, rhythmic pulse of the planet. There is a layer in the ocean known as the SOFAR channel, a deep-sea highway where sound waves are trapped and guided by the shifting temperature and pressure. In this channel, the low-frequency songs of great whales resonate across entire hemispheres. A blue whale may release a deep, mournful note in the cold waters of the Southern Ocean, and that sound, a slow, vibrating heartbeat, can be detected by other whales thousands of miles away, perhaps near the equator. It is a strange and beautiful paradox. To our ears, this place is the quietest on earth, a sanctuary far removed from the roar of wind and the clamor of civilization. Yet, for those who live here, the water is alive with ancient vibrations. The slow tectonic groans of the seafloor, the distant thrum of massive currents shifting like underwater rivers, and the soft rhythmic pulses of life. These sounds don't break the peace, they deepen it. They remind us that the ocean is a single, connected entity, a vast body that remembers every movement within its depths. As you settle into this vibrating stillness, let the idea of these long-distance echoes soothe your mind. Just as the sound waves travel effortlessly through the water, let your thoughts move slowly without resistance. There is no urgency here. The currents move at their own pace, and the sounds of the deep take their time to arrive. You're drifting in a world that communicates through whispers and hums, a place where distance is bridged by the very medium that surrounds you. But as we continue our descent, drifting further into the heart of the midnight zone, the sensory landscape begins to shift once more. Your ears have grown accustomed to the low-frequency hum of the abyss. And now your eyes begin to search the darkness. For a long time, there is nothing, only the thick, comforting blackness of a world without a sun. You might think that in this void, sight becomes a useless sense, a relic of the world above. But then, out of the corner of your eye, you catch a glimpse of something impossible. A tiny, silver blue spark. It is smaller than a pinprick, a momentary glimmer that vanishes as quickly as it appeared. Then another one flickers to your left, followed by a soft, pulsing glow directly ahead. It looks like a distant star, or perhaps a firefly lost in a dream. In a place where no sunlight has ever reached, the darkness is beginning to breathe with its own internal light. These are the first signs that the abyss is not a void, but a garden of living lanterns, waiting to show us a different kind of beauty. As we move deeper, these sparks become more frequent, turning the heavy velvet of the water into a canvas for a light that the sun did not create. This living light is called bioluminescence, a word derived from the Greek for life and the Latin for light. It is a quiet alchemy that happens within the bodies of the creatures drifting beside us in the deep. Unlike the light from a light bulb or a candle, this light is cold. It produces no heat, only a soft, steady radiance that doesn't disturb the chilly stillness of the water. It is one of nature's most beautiful inventions, a way for life to carry its own sun into the places where the real sun can never reach. Inside these tiny organisms, two special substances come together to create this magic. The first is a molecule called luciferin, a name that means light bringer. It serves as the fuel for the glow. The second is an enzyme called luciferase, which acts like a gentle hand turning a key. When these two meet in the presence of oxygen, they create a chemical reaction that releases energy in the form of pure, shimmering light. It is a perfect, efficient process, a spark of life created entirely from within, requiring nothing from the world outside. As we continue to drift, the number of these lights begins to grow. What we once perceived as a vast empty void is actually teeming with hidden activity. In the midnight zone, bioluminescence is the rule rather than the exception. Scientists estimate that nearly 90% of the creatures living in these depths produce their own light. For them, the ability to glow is as natural as breathing is to us. They use it as a language, a tool, and a shield. In a world of perpetual night, being able to create your own light is the ultimate survival skill. Take a slow, deep breath and look around this imagined space. The darkness is no longer heavy or imposing. Instead, it has become a vast canvas. Thousands of tiny lanterns, some as small as a grain of sand, others as large as a glowing ribbon, drift through the water like slow-moving stars. It is as if the night sky has been reflected and submerged, tucked beneath the surface of the sea. You are not alone in the dark. You are floating in the center of an underwater galaxy. Every flicker is a sign of life, a soft heartbeat made visible in the gloom. This realization changes the way we feel about the deep. The abyss is not a place where light has died, but a place where light has been reinvented. It is a sanctuary of soft, pulsing embers, a quiet celebration of existence that continues in total peace, far from the noise of the world above. As you watch these living stars, you might notice that they aren't all the same. Each one has a specific glow, a specific purpose. Most of what you see is a familiar, calming hue, a color that seems to belong to the water itself. But as we look closer at this tapestry of light, we begin to understand why the ocean chooses certain colors over others, and how those colors travel through the silent, heavy blue. If you were to look closely at the sparks drifting past you, you would notice that nearly all of them glow with a soft sapphire blue or a cool emerald green. There is a very practical, scientific reason for this choice of palette. In the physics of the ocean, blue and green light have the perfect wavelength to travel the furthest through the water, while other colors like yellow, orange, or red are quickly absorbed and scattered by the density of the sea. Blue light cuts through the darkness with ease. Because of this, almost every creature in the deep has eyes that are specifically tuned to see only blue. It is their universal language, the one color that everyone can hear in the silence of the abyss. For a fish in the midnight zone, blue is the color of reality itself. But in the quiet corners of this dark world, there are a few clever exceptions that have found a way to work outside the norm. There is a creature known as the dragonfish, a small and slender hunter that has developed a truly remarkable secret. While its neighbors are restricted to the world of blue, the dragonfish can produce a deep crimson-red light from specialized organs beneath its eyes. To almost every other fish in the midnight zone, red light is completely invisible. It is a color that simply does not exist in their reality, as their eyes lack the receptors to perceive it. This gives the dragonfish a hidden advantage, a secret, private flashlight that it can shine on its surroundings to look for prey without ever being seen. It is as if the dragonfish is walking through a dark room with night vision goggles, moving in total stealth while everything else remains blind to its presence. Imagine that for a moment. A soft ruby glow illuminating a small patch of the water, invisible to everyone but the one who creates it. It is a reminder that even in a place as uniform as the deep, nature finds ways to create private worlds and hidden advantages. But for us, as we drift further into the stillness, we return our gaze to the more common sights, the blues and the greens that fill the water like falling stars. Take a slow, deep breath now. Let your shoulders relax into your bed, feeling the weight of your body supported and safe. As you exhale, visualize those blue embers drifting in the dark. See them in your mind's eye, pulsing with a slow, steady rhythm like the embers of a dying fire. They aren't bright or jarring. They are soft and diffused, appearing and disappearing in the dark like distant memories. Each one is a tiny life, moving with purpose but without any rush. There is no urgency here, no frantic movement, just the slow, graceful dance of light in the cool, quiet water. The way these creatures use their light is as varied as the creatures themselves. It is not just about seeing or being seen. For many, light is a sophisticated tool, a way to interact with the world around them in ways we are only beginning to understand. As we watch a small cluster of glowing specks drift closer, we begin to see that these lights aren't just random flickers. They are part of a complex system of signals and defenses, a silent conversation taking place in the heart of the ocean. In the darkness, light is a form of power. It can be a shield, a decoy, or a warning. As we continue our descent, we will see how the inhabitants of the Midnight Zone use their glow not just to illuminate the dark, but to survive it, turning themselves into living puzzles that even the most determined predators find difficult to solve. One of the most fascinating ways this light is used is known to scientists as the burglar alarm effect. Imagine a small, delicate creature, perhaps a tiny jellyfish or a microscopic crustacean, being suddenly grabbed by a predator. In that moment of danger, rather than trying to hide or go dark, the creature does something entirely unexpected. It flashes with an incredible, brilliant intensity. It isn't trying to scare its attacker away with the brightness alone. Instead, it is calling for help from the darkness. This sudden, rhythmic burst of light is a signal that can be seen from a great distance in the clear, still water, acting exactly like a silent alarm. By lighting up the creature that is trying to eat it, the victim is essentially pointing a spotlight at the burglar. It hopes that an even larger predator, perhaps a passing fish or a squid, will be drawn to the light and eat the original attacker. It is a brilliant, desperate gambit. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. While the two larger animals are occupied, the tiny light bringer can often slip away into the shadows, saved by the very light it created. It is a reminder that in the deep, being noticed is sometimes the only way to stay safe. As we drift further into this world of shadows, we might see a sudden puff of glowing blue ink, like an underwater firework frozen in time. This is the work of the deep-sea shrimp. Unlike the shrimp we know from the sunlit coasts, these inhabitants of the Midnight Zone have developed a defense that feels like something out of a fairy tale. When a predator gets too close, the shrimp doesn't just swim away. It vomits a cloud of bioluminescent chemicals into the water. This creates a shimmering, glowing smoke screen, a phantom version of the shrimp that hangs in the darkness. To a predator, this sudden explosion of light is blinding and confusing. It creates a ghost to strike at, while the real shrimp, now invisible in the darkness behind the glow, flicks its tail and disappears. It is a gentle sort of trickery, using beauty and brilliance to create a moment of escape. This liquid light doesn't cause harm. It simply dazzles, providing a temporary veil of protection. Imagine that glowing cloud slowly dissipating in the water, the tiny blue sparks fading one by one until the silence and the dark return. Take a slow, deep breath and feel the stillness of this thought. In the world we live in, light is often harsh or demanding. But here, it is a tool for safety and a language of peace. It is how these creatures talk to one another across the vast, empty spaces. It is how they find their way and how they protect their lives. This realization turns the scary darkness of the ocean into something much more welcoming, a complex, glowing network where every flash and pulse has a meaning. The ocean isn't a void, it is a conversation. As we continue our slow descent, we encounter one of the most mesmerizing sights the deep has to offer. Drifting toward us is a creature that looks like a living jewel, a delicate oval of translucent glass. This is the combed jelly or custinophore. Despite the name, it is not a true jellyfish. It is something much older, a lineage of life that has remained almost unchanged for hundreds of millions of years. It doesn't pulse its body with the rhythmic, umbrella-like motion of a common jelly. Instead, it hangs in the water with a quiet, ghostly grace, appearing almost weightless. It is a creature of pure elegance, a silent traveler in the deep that seems to glow with an inner light all its own. As it moves closer, we see that it carries with it a display of colors that looks like nothing else on Earth. A shifting, shimmering rainbow that dances along its sides. We are watching a living relic of the ancient seas, a creature that had mastered the art of existing in total harmony with the quiet, heavy water around it. Feel yourself drifting alongside it, moving at the same slow, effortless pace as we prepare to look closer at the secrets of its shimmering light. As the comb jelly drifts past, you might notice 8 rows of tiny, hair-like structures running down the length of its body. These are called cilia, and they are the engines of this delicate creature. While many ocean dwellers use powerful muscles to push through the water, the comb jelly uses these thousands of microscopic combs to propel itself. They beat in a coordinated wave-like motion, acting like tiny rhythmic oars that row the animal through the abyss. It is the largest animal in the world that moves using cilia, and the movement is so smooth, so subtle, that the jelly seems to be gliding on an invisible track, untroubled by the weight of the water. But it is what happens when those cilia move that is truly magical. As the tiny hairs beat back and forth, they catch whatever faint light is present and break it apart. This isn't always bioluminescence in the traditional sense. In these moments, the jelly isn't necessarily creating its own chemical light. Instead, it is a mesmerizing phenomenon of physics called diffraction. The cilia act like millions of tiny prisms. As they move, they scatter the light into a shimmering spectrum. Vibrant reds, electric blues, neon greens, and soft purples. These colors don't just sit there. They ripple down the length of the animal's body in rhythmic pulses, looking for all the world like a traveling neon sign or a moving fiber optic display. It is a hauntingly beautiful sight, a rainbow dancing in a world where the sun never shines. It is a reminder that even in the total dark, there is a hidden architecture of light just waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. It is humbling to realize that this display has been occurring in the dark for over 500 million years. Comb jellies are among the oldest lineages of animals on the planet. They were drifting through the deep oceans long before the first dinosaurs walked the earth, long before the first trees reached for the sky. They are not true jellyfish. They belong to their own distinct phylum, but they have perfected the art of survival through simplicity and grace. They don't have a brain or a heart in the way we understand them. Instead, they have a decentralized nervous system, a nerve net that allows them to sense the world around them with every inch of their translucent skin. They are perfectly tuned to the cold, the pressure, and the ancient vibrations of the deep. Take a moment to visualize the rhythm of those rainbow pulses. Soft, steady, constant. There is no hurry in the deep. The comb jelly doesn't need to rush. It simply exists in a state of perpetual quiet motion. As you watch the colors flow along its ribs in your mind's eye, Feel your own breathing slow down to match that ancient, steady pace. The water here is a cradle, and these creatures are its select inhabitants, moving through the dark like half-remembered dreams. As the comb jelly fades into the distance, its rainbow lights becoming tiny, flickering stars before vanishing, we move deeper still. The shapes in the water begin to change. We leave behind the compact oval forms of the jellies and begin to encounter structures that seem to defy the laws of biology. Stretching out through the darkness are long, thin ribbons of life. Creatures so vast and so strange that they challenge our definition of what a single animal can be. These are the world's longest organisms, drifting like silver threads through the heavy, silent water, connecting one part of the abyss to the next in a display of total quiet cooperation. We are entering the realm of the giants, where life is measured not in inches, but in incredible, shimmering lengths. Imagine a thread of gossamer silk, glowing with a faint internal light, winding its way through the dark. This is the siphonophore, one of the most mesmerizing sights in the deep ocean. While it looks like a single, incredibly long rope or a delicate lace ribbon, it is something far more complex and beautiful than it first appears. Some species, like the giant siphonophore, can grow to be over 150 feet long. To put that in perspective, that is longer than a blue whale, the largest animal to ever live on the surface. Yet, the siphonophore is often as thin as a finger, a spiraling, living garland drifting through the midnight water in a state of perpetual quiet grace. But here is the most incredible secret of the siphonophore. It is not just one animal. It is what scientists call a colonial organism. It is made up of thousands of individual organisms called zooids. Each zooid has a specific vital job to do, and they are so specialized that they cannot survive on their own. Think of it like a silent underwater city, where every citizen is a part of the same body. At the very front of the colony are the nectophores, tiny, translucent swimming bells that pulse in perfect unison to pull the rest of the colony through the water. Behind them are the gastrozoids, which handle the nourishment for the entire group, sharing the energy they catch with every other member of the chain. There are dactylozoids, which act as the sentinels and hunters, and even zooids that serve only as protective shields or gas-filled floats. They are all clones of one another, born from a single fertilized egg that begins to divide and specialize. Yet, they choose to live as one single giant entity. There is a profound, quiet beauty in this total cooperation. In the deep, where resources are precious and the environment is vast, these creatures have found that the best way to thrive is through perfect unity. There is no ego here, no competition, just a community of thousands moving in silent, graceful synchronicity. They are the ultimate example of how life can achieve greatness through the simple act of working together. Visualize the siphonophore as it drifts through the heavy, dark water. Sometimes it coils itself into a tight, glowing spring, waiting for the currents to carry it to a new location. Other times, it stretches out in a straight, shimmering line that seems to vanish into the darkness, acting like a living drift net. It is a living testament to the power of harmony, a reminder that peace is found when every part of a whole works together for a single, quiet, purpose. As you think about this perfect cooperation, let the tension leave your shoulders. Imagine your own body as a collection of parts all working in harmony to keep you safe, warm, and relaxed. As the siphonophore spirals away, its long silver thread becoming a mere memory in the deep, we begin to see other shapes emerging from the gloom. Not all giants in this realm are thin and ribbon-like. Some are solid and powerful, moving with a heavy, rhythmic grace that commands the space around them. We are moving toward the true Medusa, the gentle giants of the jelly world, whose bells pulse like the very heart of the ocean, steady and slow, guiding us even deeper into the stillness of the abyss. Among these drifting wonders, one of the most mesmerizing is the deep-sea Medusa, often known by its scientific name, Paraphila paraphila. It is also called the helmet jelly, named for its distinctive tall pointed bell that resembles a piece of ancient armor. In the shallow world, red is the color of warning or passion, but here, in the midnight zone, it is the color of the void. Because red light is the first to be absorbed by the water above, the jelly's dark, maroon-colored bell appears as a solid, impenetrable black. It is a natural cloak of invisibility, allowing the Medusa to drift unseen through the dark. Watch the bell as it contracts and expands. It is a slow, heavy rhythm, a heartbeat for the deep. Unlike the frantic, darting movements of life at the surface, the paraphila moves with a deliberate, unhurried grace. Each pulse of its bell is a masterpiece of efficiency, pushing against the dense, cold water just enough to maintain its position or to drift slowly toward a new current. The tentacles, long and delicate, trail behind it like silk ribbons, sensing the vibrations of the water with incredible sensitivity. Take a moment now to find that same rhythm in your own body. As you visualize the jelly's bell slowly expanding, take a long, slow breath in, filling your lungs with ease, and as the bell contracts, let that breath go, feeling the weight of your body sink deeper into your bed. Pulse and release, pulse, release. There is no rush in the deep ocean, and there is no rush here. You are simply drifting, matching the timeless pace of the water. While the paraphila is usually a shadow in the dark, it carries a secret light within. When it is startled or senses a nearby presence, it doesn't swim away in a panic. Instead, it uses a startle response, a sudden, brilliant flash of blue bioluminescence that radiates from its bell. This flash is so bright and unexpected that it momentarily blinds or confuses anything nearby, giving the jelly a chance to fade back into the safety of the shadows. It is a gentle defense, a way of saying, "I am here," before disappearing once more into the velvet silence. As the Medusa's pulse carries it further away, its dark shape blending back into the infinite blue, we begin to see another figure emerging from the gloom. It is a creature whose name might suggest a nightmare, but whose reality is one of the most peaceful and misunderstood in the entire ocean. Gliding through the water with fins that look like small, fluttering ears, we meet the vampire squid. Despite its name, Vampiroteuthis infernalis, which literally translates to vampire squid from hell, it is neither a true squid nor a vampire. It is a relic of an ancient lineage, a gentle scavenger that has remained unchanged for millions of years, perfectly content to live in the quietest, most oxygen-poor corners of the abyss. As it approaches, we see that it does not hunt with the ferocity its name implies. Instead, it moves with the delicate care of a gardener, tending to a dark underwater forest. The name, of course, is a trick of the imagination, a shadow cast by early explorers who saw its dark, reddish skin and the webbing between its arms and thought of a velvet cape. But as we watch it now, hovering in the stillness, we see there is nothing to fear. The vampire squid is one of the most passive residents of the deep. It does not hunt, it does not pursue, and it certainly does not bite. In the grand hierarchy of the ocean, it has chosen the path of least resistance, living as a detritivore. It simply waits for the ocean to provide, gathering the tiny, drifting particles that fall from the world above. Look closely at the tips of its arms. In this eternal twilight, the squid possesses a specialized form of bioluminescence. Large, complex organs at the ends of its tentacles can produce brilliant flashes of blue light. It uses these not as a lure to trap the unwary, but as a sophisticated means of misdirection. If a larger creature wanders too close, the vampire squid doesn't flee in a panic. Instead, it pulses these glowing tips, creating the illusion of glowing eyes that are moving away, or simply dazzling the visitor with a soft, rhythmic glow. It is a quiet conversation in the dark, a way of saying, "I am here, but I am not what you are looking for." When the display is over, the squid pulls its webbed arms over its head, turning inside out to reveal a dark, spiky interior that looks formidable, but is actually soft and harmless. It tucks itself away into a small, dark ball, fading into the background of the water like a closing flower. There is a profound comfort in knowing that even the creatures with the most intimidating names are, in reality, gentle and slow-moving. The deep ocean is not a place of constant struggle, but a place of incredible patience. The vampire squid has survived for millions of years by being still, by conserving its energy, and by trusting in the slow, steady rhythm of the abyss. It reminds us that we too can let go of the need to be active, the need to achieve, or the need to be on guard. Like the squid, you can simply exist in this quiet space, supported by the weight of the world around you. As the squid drifts further into the gloom, we begin to notice what it has been waiting for. All around us, tiny white flakes are falling through the water column. They look like the first few flurries of a winter storm caught in the beam of a distant light. This is what scientists call marine snow. It is the lifeblood of the deep, a continuous, violent rain of organic material that begins miles above us, near the sunlit surface. Here, in the heart of the midnight zone, this snow is the only source of sustenance, a gift from the world of light to the world of shadow. It is a beautiful, hypnotic sight. Millions of glowing white specks drifting downward with no wind to disturb them. They move so slowly that they seem to be suspended in a dream. This snow is composed of many things: tiny pieces of dried algae, microscopic shells, and the remnants of life from the upper layers of the ocean. Each flake is a small capsule of energy, a tiny piece of the sun's work being carried down into the dark. As we watch the snow fall, we begin to realize that the deep is never truly empty. It is a vast receiving cradle, catching the legacy of the surface and turning it into something new, something quiet, and something eternal. As you watch these delicate white particles drift past, you're witnessing one of the most vital processes on our planet. Marine snow is more than just debris. It is a slow-motion rain of nutrients that connects the sunlit world above to the silent world below. Each flake is a complex mosaic of life. It begins at the surface, where sunlight fuels the growth of microscopic plants called phytoplankton. When these tiny organisms reach the end of their life cycle, or when they are consumed by larger creatures, their remains begin a long, downward journey. They clump together with tiny grains of sand, microscopic shells of calcium carbonate, and the organic remnants of the creatures that live in the upper layers, forming the soft, fleecy texture we see now. The journey of a single flake of marine snow is a testament to the ocean's incredible scale and the unhurried pace of the deep. It is not a rapid descent. Because these particles are so small and light, they are at the mercy of the water's density and the subtle movements of the currents. On average, a flake of marine snow might only travel a few dozen meters in a single day. To reach the depth where we are now, in the heart of the midnight zone, that journey can take weeks or even months of steady, uninterrupted drifting. Imagine the stillness of that passage, falling through the bright blue, then the dimming twilight, and finally into this velvet dark, never stopping, never hurried. It is an eternal snowfall that has been occurring for millions of years, a constant supply of energy that never fails, even in the coldest reaches of the abyss. There is a profound sense of peace in this cycle. In the world we know on the surface, life is often defined by the presence of the sun. Plants grow, animals eat, and the day begins and ends with the light. But here, the sun is a distant memory, a place that many of these creatures will never see. And yet, they are fed by the sun's work. The energy captured by a cell of algae miles above eventually makes its way down here, transformed into these soft white flakes. This is a world that lives on the legacy of the surface, a cycle of life that requires no direct light to flourish. It is a reminder that life is resilient and resourceful, finding ways to thrive in the most remote corners of the earth. As the snow falls, it creates a visual rhythm that is deeply soothing to the spirit. If you look closely, you can see that the water is thick with it, a dense fog of organic wealth. For the creatures of the deep, this isn't just background scenery. It is a feast that falls from the sky. They wait with outstretched tentacles or delicate filters, catching the snow as it passes. There is no competition, no rush. There is enough for everyone in this slow, steady rain. The abyss is not a desert. It is a quiet garden being tended by the gravity of the planet. This slow drift of nutrients creates a sense of total interconnectedness. A single drop of water, a single flake of snow, links the entire vertical span of the ocean. It reminds us that everything is recycled, everything is used, and nothing is ever truly lost. The ocean is a perfect system of conservation, where the end of one life at the surface becomes the beginning of another in the deep. You can feel the weight of this ancient process, the heavy, comforting blanket of the water, and the soft, silent arrival of the snow. It is a world that exists in a state of perpetual receiving, a place where the only requirement is to be still and let the bounty of the world come to you. As we watch the snow continue its descent toward the distant seafloor, we start to see how some creatures have evolved ingenious ways to catch even more of this falling treasure. In the darkness, strange translucent structures begin to appear, drifting like ghost ships through the snowy haze. These are the intricate homes of creatures that have mastered the art of the harvest, turning the simple act of drifting into a masterpiece of biological engineering. Among these drifting ghost ships, we find one of the most remarkable architects of the deep, the giant Larvacean. Despite its name, the creature itself is quite small, resembling a delicate, translucent tadpole only a few inches long. But the structure it builds around itself is truly grand. To survive in this world of sparse nutrients, the Larvacean secretes a shimmering, balloon-like house made entirely of mucus. This house is not just a shelter, it is a complex, multi-layered filtration system that can reach up to 3 feet in diameter, dwarfing the tiny creature inside. As the Larvacean beats its tail, it creates a gentle current that pulls the falling marine snow into its home. The intricate mesh of the house traps the organic flakes, concentrating the food so the Larvacean can feed with ease. From a distance, these structures look like glowing ethereal lanterns suspended in the dark, pulsing with the soft rhythm of the water. They are masterpieces of biological engineering, created from almost nothing, designed to catch the whispers of life falling from above. But these houses are temporary. Eventually, the fine filters become clogged with too much marine snow, and the Larvacean can no longer breathe or feed within them. With a graceful flick of its tail, the creature simply slips out of its old home and begins to secret a new one, a process it may repeat several times a day. The abandoned house, now heavy with trapped nutrients, begins a new journey. It is no longer a drifting lantern. It becomes an express elevator to the seafloor. Because these discarded houses are dense and heavy, they sink much faster than individual flakes of snow. They plummet through the darkness, carrying a concentrated feast to the very bottom of the ocean. For the creatures living miles below on the abyssal plain, the sea cucumbers, the brittle steers, and the tiny worms in the mud, these fallen houses are a sudden, miraculous bounty. A single Larvacean house can provide as much food as weeks of ordinary marine snow. This is the ocean's perfect system of recycling and generosity. Nothing is wasted in the deep. What is discarded by one creature becomes a lifeline for another. There is a quiet beauty in this exchange, a sense of a world that takes care of its own through a constant downward flow of energy. The surface provides, the midwaters filter and transform, and the seafloor receives. It is a cycle that has continued for millions of years, a steady heartbeat of nutrients that sustains life in the furthest reaches of the planet. Take a moment to imagine this vast, vertical dance. The snow falling, the Larvaceans building their shimmering veils, and the heavy houses sinking into the quiet mud. It is a world of incredible patience, where every movement is purposeful and every resource is cherished. You are part of this rhythm now, drifting in the stillness, safe in the knowledge that the world is constant and self-sustaining. But while we have watched the snow in the houses fall vertically through the water, The ocean is also moving horizontally in ways we can barely perceive. The water itself is not a stationary backdrop. It is a living, breathing body that travels across the entire globe. Even as the marine snow settles, it is carried by invisible hands, vast, slow-moving currents that act as the Earth's own circulatory system. These are the great rivers of the deep, moving with a power and a patience that defy human time. As we drift further into the dark, we begin to feel the first stirrings of these ancient paths, the silent tracks of the water as it begins a journey that spans centuries. As we drift within these silent depths, we are not merely floating in a still pool. We are caught in the embrace of a massive, invisible engine, the global conveyor belt. This is the Earth's great circulatory system, a vast network of currents that connects every ocean on the planet. Scientists call this the thermohaline circulation, a name derived from thermo for heat and haline for salt. These two simple elements, at temperature and saltiness, work together in a quiet, powerful harmony to drive the water across thousands of miles. It is a slow-motion river that flows beneath the surface waves, unseen and unhurried, carrying life-sustaining oxygen and nutrients to the furthest corners of the deep. It is the heartbeat of the world, pulsing so slowly that we can only perceive it through the lens of history. Imagine, if you can, the incredible journey of a single drop of water within this system. If a drop of water were to begin its journey in the frigid North Atlantic today, it would sink deep into the abyss and begin a voyage that lasts roughly 1,000 years, a millennium. While entire civilizations rise and fall on the surface, while forests grow and mountains weather, that single drop of water is calmly making its way through the darkness. It travels south past the equator, rounds the tip of Africa, and wanders through the vast basins of the Indian and Pacific Oceans before finally, centuries later, rising back toward the sunlight. It is a journey of patience that defies our human understanding of time. In the deep, 1,000 years is just one complete breath of the ocean. There is no rush here. There is only the steady, inevitable flow of the water, following a path set by the ancient physics of the planet. Take a deep, slow breath and let the weight of that time settle over you. Feel the incredible, unstoppable patience of the world. You are part of a planet that thinks in centuries, not seconds. As you lie there, let your own internal rhythm slow down to match the pace of the conveyor belt. There is no need to hurry. There is nowhere else you need to be. The water is moving, but it moves with such grace and such stillness that it feels like a form of rest. You are being carried by a system that has functioned perfectly for millions of years. A liquid clock that never misses a beat. The world is taking care of itself, moving its resources with a quiet wisdom that requires nothing from us but our presence. As we follow this ancient path, we find ourselves drawn toward the beginning of the cycle, where the water is at its most powerful and most serene. We are moving toward the edges of the frozen south, toward the cold, dark waters surrounding Antarctica. This is where the engine of the deep truly begins its work. Here, in the shadow of the ice, the water undergoes a profound transformation. It becomes colder and saltier than almost anywhere else on Earth, gaining a density that makes it heavy and determined. This is the birth of what oceanographers call the Antarctic bottom water, the densest, heaviest water in existence. It is the very foundation of the global current, and as it begins its long, slow descent toward the seafloor, it invites us to follow it into the quietest, most undisturbed reaches of the world. As this water reaches its peak density, it doesn't just drift, it sinks with a quiet, purposeful weight. It is the heaviest water on our planet, chilled by the Antarctic ice and enriched with salt, until it becomes a silent, liquid anchor. Once it reaches the very bottom, it begins its long northward crawl toward the equator. It hugs the contours of the earth, filling the deepest basins and valleys of the seafloor with a layer of water that is as cold as a winter's night, yet remarkably stable. We often think of ocean currents as rushing rivers or powerful tides, but the Antarctic bottom water moves with a grace that is almost meditative. It flows at a pace significantly slower than a casual human stroll. If you were to walk along the seafloor, you would easily outpace the very current that powers the world's climate. It moves at just a few centimeters per second, a pace so relaxed it feels as though the water is luxuriating in its own journey. It has no deadlines, it has no appointments. It simply exists in a state of perpetual unhurried motion. There is a profound comfort in knowing that the largest systems on Earth move with zero urgency. In our daily lives, we are often surrounded by the pressure of time, the need to be faster, more efficient, and more productive. But down here, in the embrace of the deep, the very foundation of the world rejects that haste. The ocean reminds us that the most important work, the circulation of life-giving oxygen and the regulation of the entire planet's temperature, doesn't require speed. It requires persistence. It requires the willingness to move slowly and steadily, year after year, century after century. As you lie there, let the weight of your body sink into your bed, much like that cold, dense water sinking into the abyss. Let your breath slow down to match that ancient creeping current. There is no rush to get to sleep, just as there is no rush for the water to reach the equator. You're perfectly supported. You are part of a world that knows how to take its time, a world where the most powerful forces are also the most patient. As these currents creep across the vast stretches of the ocean floor, they begin to interact with the hidden geography of the deep. The water doesn't just flow over the landscape. It behaves like a gentle sculptor, smoothing the silt and following the ancient curves of the Earth's crust. It winds around the bases of massive underwater volcanoes and through canyons deeper than any found on land. This constant, soft contact between the moving water and the stationary seafloor creates a unique environment, a place where the liquid world and the solid world meet in a silent, eternal embrace. It is here, in this interaction, that the ocean begins to reveal its more subtle architecture, showing us that even in the absolute stillness of the abyss, there is a complex and beautiful structure at play, hidden just beneath the surface of the flow. As we continue our descent into this quiet world, we begin to notice that the water itself isn't just a static mass. It has its own internal weather, its own secret geography that operates far beneath the reach of the wind. While the surface of the ocean may be tossed by storms or smoothed by a summer breeze, deep below there exists a phenomenon known as internal waves. These are giant ripples that happen entirely underwater, invisible to anyone looking down from a boat or a satellite. They are the secret pulses of the abyss, moving through the darkness like the slow, heavy breathing of the planet itself. These internal waves form at the boundaries between layers of water with different densities, perhaps where the cold, salt-heavy currents we just discussed meet a layer that is slightly warmer or less saline. Because the density difference between these layers is so much smaller than the difference between water and air, the gravity governing them acts more slowly. This allows the waves to reach sizes that would be impossible on the surface. Some of these internal waves are truly gargantuan, towering hundreds of feet high. To stand beside one would be like looking up at a skyscraper made of liquid, yet they move with such a staggering heavy grace that they remain completely silent. There is no crashing foam, no roar of white water. There is only the slow, rhythmic displacement of the deep. This is the hidden architecture of the ocean, a world of invisible mountains and valleys made entirely of moving water. These waves can travel for thousands of miles across the ocean basins, carrying nutrients and energy from one zone to another, acting as a gentle stir stick for the world's largest laboratory. They are a reminder that even in a place that seems still and unchanging, there is a constant, magnificent structure at play. The deep ocean is not a void. It is a complex, multi-layered cathedral of fluid and pressure where every movement is intentional and every rhythm is ancient. As you lie there, let your mind drift on these colossal silent heaves. Imagine the sensation of being cradled by a wave that is 500 feet tall, but moves so slowly, so gently, that you only feel a soft, lingering lift. It is a movement that doesn't ask for a response. It only asks you to let go. Just as these waves move through the deep without disturbing the peace of the silt below, let your thoughts move through your mind without disturbing your growing sense of rest. You are part of this rhythm. Your own breath is a small, personal version of these great internal waves, a slow rise and a slow fall, steady and certain. But the water isn't the only thing that moves in these great rhythmic patterns. While the physical currents and waves provide the stage, the inhabitants of the deep have their own choreography. As the light of the sun begins to fade in the world far above us, a signal is sent through the water column. It is a call that triggers the largest and most consistent movement of life on Earth, even here. In the shadows of the midnight zone, the living world is preparing for a journey. This massive coordinated shift of biology is known as the DL vertical migration, a heartbeat of life that pulses through the ocean every single day, a linking the deepest trenches to the starlit surface in a cycle as old as the sea itself. As the sun dips below the horizon on the surface, a massive, silent signal travels through the water. It is not a sound, but a subtle change in the quality of the dim light, a cue that has been obeyed for millions of years. This is the start of the DL vertical migration, the largest and most consistent movement of life on our planet. Every single night, as the world above prepares for sleep, billions of animals begin a vertical journey toward the surface. It involves more biomass, more living weight, than all the great migrations of the Serengeti or the seasonal flights of birds across the continents. Imagine, if you can, trillions of tiny krill shimmering lanternfish and delicate, translucent jellies rising through the water column in a massive, coordinated ascent. They move together, a vast cloud of life ascending from the dark. They are traveling toward the nutrient-rich waters of the surface to feast on the microscopic plants that grew in the sunlight during the day. But they are cautious travelers. They only venture into those upper reaches under the protective cover of night. As you breathe in and out, visualize this great rising tide of living things. It is a slow, steady climb through hundreds of meters of water. For a tiny creature only an inch long, this journey is the equivalent of a human being running a marathon every single night just to find a meal. Yet, they do it with a quiet, effortless grace, drifting upward like embers from a fire rising into the night sky. As the first hint of dawn begins to touch the waves far above, the migration reverses. The signal is sent once more by the increasing light. The billions of travelers begin their long descent, sinking back down into the cool, dark embrace of the midnight zone. They return to the safety of the shadows, where the sun's rays cannot reach, and where the predators of the surface cannot see them. By the time the sun is high in the sky, the water column appears empty again. But the midnight zone is full, cradling its weary travelers in a heavy velvet blanket of darkness. This rhythm is the true heartbeat of the ocean. Twice a day, every day, the sea breathes in and out, a pulse of life that links the sunlit waves to the deepest trenches. It is a steady, dependable cycle that has continued since the dawn of time. There is something deeply comforting in the knowledge of this massive, rhythmic movement happening right now, even as you settle into your own rest. The whole planet has its own breath, a slow and steady rise, a slow and steady fall, mirroring the rhythm of your own heart. But while this great migration keeps the midwater in constant motion, there are those who do not participate in the journey. Far below the migrating clouds of krill and fish, there is a world that remains perfectly still on the very floor of the ocean, in the soft, silty plains of the abyss. There are creatures that never rise toward the light. They never feel the pull of the moon or the warmth of the sun. These are the permanent residents of the deep, the masters of the art of waiting. They do not chase their life. They let life come to them, existing in a state of eternal, peaceful patience. In the silence of the seafloor, time moves differently, and the urgency of the world above fades into a distant, forgotten memory. Among the many residents of this quiet seafloor, perhaps none is more specialized for a life of waiting than the tripod fish. It is a creature that seems to have more in common with a delicate piece of architecture than a typical fish. While most life in the ocean is defined by its ability to swim, the tripod fish has mastered the art of standing still. It possesses 3 incredibly long, spindly fins, 2 extending from its sides and 1 from its tail, that function exactly like the legs of a tripod. These fins can reach over 3 feet in length, allowing the fish to perch delicately above the soft, silty floor. By standing on these stilts, the fish keeps its body elevated, hovering just high enough to catch the tiny crustaceans and bits of marine snow that are carried along by the slow-moving bottom currents. It does not hunt in the traditional sense. It does not chase or strike. Instead, it simply exists in a state of perfect upright suspension. It faces into the current, its tiny pectoral fins extended like fans to sense the slightest vibration in the water. When a meal drifts toward it, the fish barely has to move. It simply opens its mouth and lets the ocean provide. It is a life of extraordinary patience. A tripod fish may stay in the exact same spot for hours or even days, as still as a statue in a darkened gallery. There is no urgency in its world, no frantic search for sustenance. It trusts entirely in the rhythm of the water to bring what is necessary. As you settle deeper into your own rest, try to visualize this creature's quiet vigil. Imagine the sensation of being so still that the world seems to move around you while you remain at the center of a calm, unchanging point. There is a profound peace in this act of simply being. You do not need to be anywhere else. You do not need to accomplish anything in this moment. Like the fish on the seafloor, you can find a sense of deep security by letting the world drift past. Take a slow, deep breath in, feeling the stillness in your own limbs. And exhale, letting go of any lingering tension. The weight of the water above the fish is immense, yet it does not feel crushed. It is supported. In the same way, let your bed support you. Let the silence of the room hold you. As we move away from the tripod fish, we begin to travel across the vast landscape that it calls home. Beyond the small clusters of life, the horizon opens up into the abyssal plain. This is the largest environment on Earth, a series of immense flat stretches that lie 3,000 to 6,000 meters below the surface. It is a world of incredible scale and silence, stretching out for thousands of miles in every direction. As we drift over this level expanse, the features of the world above, the mountains, the valleys, the busy shores, feel like a dream from another life. Here, there is only the level, dark horizon and the soft, thick sediment that has been settling here, grain by grain, for millions of years. The abyssal plain is a place of staggering scale. If you were to remove all the water from the world's oceans, this is what you would see most clearly: vast, level prairies that stretch toward a horizon we can barely imagine. These plains cover nearly half of our planet's total surface area, making them the most common landscape on Earth. Yet, they remain largely untouched, unseen, and profoundly silent. There are no hills here to catch the current, no trees to rustle, and no light to define the edges of things. There is only a sense of infinite level space, a world that has reached a state of total permanent calm. Beneath us, the floor is not made of hard rock or coarse sand. Instead, it is covered in a substance scientists call pelagic ooze. It is a soft, evocative name for a material that is perhaps the gentlest substance in nature. This ooze is composed of the microscopic remains of tiny sea creatures, silica shell diatoms and calcium-rich plankton, along with fine dust blown from distant continents and even metallic particles from falling meteors. For millions of years, this fine, organic dust has been drifting down through the miles of water, settling grain by grain, layer by layer. The layer of sediment is immense, sometimes reaching depths of several miles. It is a soft, thick, cushion that blankets the true crust of the earth, smoothing out every jagged edge and filling every crevice. Imagine the quiet of a forest after a heavy snowfall, where every sound is muffled and the world feels padded and safe. The abyssal plain is like that, but on a global scale. It is the ultimate quiet room of the planet. If you were to touch it, your hand would sink into a velvet-like silt that hasn't been disturbed for 10,000 years. It is a place where time seems to have no meaning, where the only clock is the slow, steady accumulation of the falling marine snow. As you lie there, let your mind drift over these endless, silent plains. Feel the weight of your own body pressing into the soft surface of your bed. Much like the sediment rests upon the ocean floor, there is a great comfort in knowing that such a place exists, a place of total, unyielding stillness that covers half the world. You are part of a planet that knows how to be quiet. You are part of a world that understands how to rest. Take a moment to settle your shoulders, to let your head sink a little deeper into the pillow, and imagine yourself floating just above that soft, silver-gray floor cradled by the cool, still water. For a long time, we believed these plains were biological deserts, vast, empty wastes where nothing could survive the cold and the pressure. But the more we look, the more we realize that life has a way of claiming even the most desolate spaces. Even here, in the heart of the abyss, there are pockets of activity that defy everything we thought we knew about the requirements for existence. As we move across the flat expanse, we begin to see the landscape change. The level horizon is interrupted by something extraordinary. Places where the very crust of the earth opens up, revealing a hidden world of heat and energy that thrives in the most extreme conditions imaginable. As we travel further across those silent, silty plains, the landscape begins to ripple and change. The flat horizon of the abyssal plain gives way to jagged ridges and deep fissures in the earth's crust, where the very foundations of our world are being pulled apart and remade. Here, in the absolute dark, we encounter one of the most alien and mesmerizing sights on our planet: hydrothermal vents. They appear out of the gloom like towering chimneys of stone, some rising several stories high from the sea floor. From their jagged peaks, thick plumes of mineral-rich water billow upward, looking for all the world like dark smoke rising into a midnight sky. These are often called black smokers, but there's no fire here, only the incredible pulsing heat of the Earth's interior. The water emerging from these vents has been heated by magma deep beneath the sea floor, reaching temperatures of over 700 degrees Fahrenheit. It is a heat so intense it could easily melt lead, yet because of the immense pressure at this depth, the water cannot boil. It remains a liquid, a superheated stream of minerals and energy surging into the cold. The contrast here is one of the great wonders of the natural world. Just a few inches away from that scorching plume, the surrounding ocean remains at its constant, near-freezing temperature. It is a world of fire and ice existing in a perfect, shimmering equilibrium. If you were to watch the water where these two extremes meet, you would see a beautiful, hazy distortion, a shimmering veil where the heat and the cold embrace. It is a reminder that even in the most inhospitable corners of our world, there is a profound sense of balance. The planet is alive, breathing out its inner warmth, into the chilling depths of the sea. As you visualize these towering chimneys and the soft, billowing plumes of mineral smoke, let your own body find that same sense of balance. Feel the warmth of your blankets against the cool air of your room. Much like the vents provide a pocket of heat in the vast chill of the abyss, your bed is your own personal oasis of comfort. You are safe and protected, held in the quiet equilibrium of the night. For a long time, scientists believed that nothing could possibly live in such a volatile environment. The chemicals rising from the vents, hydrogen sulfide and heavy metals, are toxic to almost all life as we know it on the surface. And yet, as we move our lights closer to the base of these stone towers, we see that the area is not empty. It is teeming with a specialized, beautiful community of creatures that have turned this toxic heat into a source of life. These vents are islands of activity in the dark, crowded with organisms that look like nothing else on Earth, thriving in a world where the sun has no power and the rules of biology are rewritten. As we drift closer to these towering chimneys, we see what look like fields of tall white flowers swaying in the slow-motion currents. These are the giant tube worms, some of the most iconic and mysterious residents of the deep. They can reach lengths of over 8 feet, their long, slender bodies encased in protective tubes that are as white and smooth as polished bone. At the very top of each tube, a soft crimson plume emerges, waving gently in the water like a delicate brush of velvet. This vibrant red color comes from the same hemoglobin that carries oxygen in our own blood, a splash of brilliant color in a world that rarely sees the light. But these creatures are a biological marvel of simplicity and elegance. Unlike almost every other animal you might imagine, the giant tube worm has no mouth. It has no stomach, no eyes, and no way to catch or chew food. It does not hunt, and it does not forage. Instead, it has formed a beautiful ancient pact with billions of tiny bacteria that live deep within its body, in a specialized organ called a trophosome. This is a life of perfect cooperation, a quiet internal partnership that allows the worm to thrive in an environment that would be fatal to almost anything else. While the plants and trees on the surface rely on photosynthesis, using the sun's rays to create energy, these tube worms rely on chemosynthesis. The bacteria inside them take the raw, mineral-rich energy rising from the vents, specifically hydrogen sulfide, and turn it into the organic molecules the worm needs to survive. In return, the worm provides the bacteria with a steady supply of oxygen and a safe, stable home. It is a deep-sea version of a garden growing in the dark, where the inner warmth of the earth replaces the light of the sun. There is something deeply reassuring about this. The knowledge that even in the most absolute darkness, life does not just survive, it blossoms. It finds a way to create energy and structure from the very things we might consider harsh or toxic. It is a testament to the persistence and creativity of the natural world. As you imagine these crimson plumes swaying in the warm, mineral-rich currents, feel the steady rhythm of your own breathing. Just as the tube worm is perfectly supported by its environment, you are supported by the stillness of the night. This ecosystem is a closed loop of generosity, where every element works in harmony to sustain the whole. The vents provide the heat, The bacteria provide the nourishment, and the worms provide the structure. It is a world without hurry, fueled by the slow, constant pulse of the planet itself. This incredible resilience isn't limited to the fast-growing life around the vents. While the tube worms grow quickly in the heat, just a short distance away in the cold, still waters of the abyss, life takes on a different kind of strength. In the deep ocean, where the temperature never fluctuates and the seasons never change, time itself seems to slow down. The rush of the surface world fades away, replaced by an endurance that spans across generations. We are moving now toward creatures that have mastered the art of patience, beings that do not measure their lives in years or decades, but in centuries and millennia. These helicoid sentinels of the deep have watched the world above change, while they remain unchanged, held in the timeless embrace of the water. Among these ancient residents are the glass sponges, perhaps the most patient creatures on our planet. They look like delicate, intricate sculptures, ethereal vases or complex latticework structures that seem too fragile for the weight of the ocean. Yet, they are marvels of biological engineering. Unlike most animals that build their skeletons from calcium, these sponges extract silicic acid from the seawater to create a framework made of pure silica. They are, quite literally, made of glass. This glass skeleton is not just for structure. It is a masterpiece of light and geometry. In the faint, bioluminescent glow of the deep, these sponges can act like fiber optic cables, channeling and scattering the tiniest flickers of light through their bodies. It is a quiet, shimmering existence, rooted to the seafloor for a duration that challenges our understanding of time. Some species of glass sponge, such as those found in the East China Sea, are estimated to live for over 10,000 years. Think for a moment about that span of time. 10,000 years. When the first foundations of these sponges were being laid, humans were just beginning to form the very first settled societies. While entire civilizations rose to greatness, flourished, and eventually returned to the earth, these sponges remained exactly where they are now, silent, still, and steadily filtering the cold water. They have witnessed the slow drift of continents and the cooling of the seas. To them, a human lifetime is but a brief, flickering moment, like a single spark from a firefly in the woods. As you rest, let the weight of this ancient wisdom settle over you. There is no need to rush, no need to hurry through the moments of your life. The glass sponge teaches us that there is a profound strength in simply being, in enduring, and in growing slowly and surely within the environment that cradles you. Take a deep, slow breath and imagine the silence that has surrounded these glass cathedrals for 10 millennia. It is a silence so deep and so pure that it feels like a physical presence, a soft blanket that smooths away the worries of the day. In this world of slowed down time and perpetual cold, the rules of biology begin to shift in fascinating ways. The same conditions that allow a sponge to live for thousands of years, the low temperatures, the high pressure, and the scarcity of food, also influence the very physical scale of life. In the abyss, the small often becomes large, and the familiar takes on a grander, more mysterious form. This brings us to a phenomenon known as deep-sea gigantism, where the quiet, cold depths transform the modest into the monumental. The cold water of the deep acts as a silent sculptor, shaping life into forms that often defy our expectations of scale. In the sunlit world above, we are used to a certain order. Insects and crustaceans are typically small, darting through the undergrowth or scurrying along the shoreline. But in the abyss, the rules of size are rewritten by the environment itself. This phenomenon, known as deep-sea gigantism, is one of the ocean's most mesmerizing mysteries. Scientists believe this happens for several reasons, all of them rooted in the quiet patience of the deep. In the near-freezing temperatures, a creature's metabolism slows to a rhythmic, steady crawl. This slow pace of life means that cells grow larger and maturity is reached much later. When an animal lives for decades or even centuries without the constant heat of the sun to speed up its internal clock, it simply has more time to grow. Furthermore, being larger is an advantage in a world where food is scarce. A larger body can store more energy and travel longer distances between meals, moving through the water with a slow, efficient grace. One of the most gentle examples of this gigantism is the giant isopod. If you have ever turned over a damp stone in a garden and seen a tiny pill bug curl into a ball, you already know the shape of this creature. But here, in the soft sediment of the seafloor, the isopod has grown to an incredible size, sometimes reaching over 16 inches in length. Imagine a pill bug the size of a small, resting cat. Its segmented shell, a pale iridescent lilac or a dusty gray. Despite its imposing size, the giant isopod is a peaceful inhabitant of the dark. It is a scavenger, a quiet cleaner of the ocean floor. It does not rush. It does not hunt with aggression. Instead, it crawls slowly across the silt on its many delicate legs. Or sometimes, it flips onto its back and swims through the water with a rhythmic rowing motion. It is capable of going years without a single meal, sitting in a state of perfect meditative stillness until the currents bring a gift from above. There is a profound comfort in seeing such a familiar, humble shape reimagined on a grand scale. It reminds us that the deep is not a place of monsters, but a place where the familiar is allowed to reach its fullest, most quiet potential. As you visualize this large, plated wanderer resting on the velvet floor of the ocean, let your own breathing match its slow, steady pulse. There is no urgency here. The weight of the water above is not a burden, but a supportive embrace, holding everything in a state of equilibrium. While these heavy, armored giants claim the seafloor, the water column just above them is filled with life that is far more delicate. If the isopod represents the strength of the deep, then the many species of marine worms represent its ethereal beauty. As we lift our gaze from the sediment, we see a new kind of light beginning to flicker in the dark. These are not the steady, glowing lanterns of the fish we met earlier, but something more transient and magical. They drift through the water like glowing embers or falling snowflakes, caught in a slow-motion dance that never ends. Among them are the remarkable green bombers, tiny travelers that have developed a truly ingenious way to move through the shadows. The green bomber is a master of the graceful exit, a tiny magician of the midnight zone. Known scientifically as swima, these small, translucent worms are a wonder of evolutionary creativity. Imagine a creature no longer than your finger, its body nearly clear, adorned with delicate, fan-like bristles that it uses to paddle through the water with a rhythmic, fluttering motion. It looks less like a predator and more like a piece of fine, living lace drifting through the void. But what makes the green bomber truly special are the 4 pairs of small elliptical sacs tucked near its head. These are its bombs, though they are far more peaceful than the name suggests. When the worm senses the approach of a curious fish or a potential threat, it does not attempt to fight or hide behind armor. Instead, it releases one of these tiny sacs into the water. The moment the sac detaches, it ignites with a brilliant neon green bioluminescence. It is an intense, vivid light that seems to pulse with a life of its own. For a few minutes, this tiny green orb becomes the brightest thing in the darkness, a glowing decoy that captures the full attention of whatever was following the worm. While the predator is distracted by this shimmering green firework, the worm itself turns off any of its own faint light and swims away into the velvet blackness, completely invisible once more. The light of these bombs can last for several minutes, slowly fading like a dying ember in a fireplace. It is a remarkably non-violent way to survive, a clever trick of chemistry and physics that allows a fragile creature to navigate a world of giants. There is something deeply comforting in the idea of the green bomber. It reminds us that in the deep, survival isn't always about being the strongest or the fastest. Often, it is about being the most creative, using the beauty of light to find safety. As you think of these tiny glowing green lanterns drifting slowly away from their owners, you can almost see them as stars in an underwater sky, marking a path of peace through the silence. This clever use of light is just one of the many ways the inhabitants of the deep manage their existence in a world of limited resources. It is a place of perfect economy, where every spark of energy is used with intention. But this sense of balance extends far beyond the individual lives of these worms and jellies. When we look at the deep ocean, we are not just looking at a collection of curious creatures. We are looking at the great regulator of our planet. The deep is not a disconnected void. It is the silent engine that helps keep the Earth's climate in a state of gentle equilibrium. Just as the green bomber manages its own safety with a flick of light, the ocean manages the health of the entire world through a massive, invisible system of cycles. The quiet water around us is doing heavy, vital work, acting as a guardian for the atmosphere far above. In the stillness of the abyss, the planet finds its breath, and a grand global process begins to take shape, one that involves every drop of water and every fallen flake of marine snow. The vast, cold waters of the deep are much more than just a home for bioluminescent life. They are Earth's greatest and most patient reservoir of carbon. When we think of carbon dioxide, we often think of the air, the wind, and the green canopies of forests. But the deep ocean holds vastly more carbon than the atmosphere and all the world's trees combined. It is a quiet, heavy storage space, a place where the gases of the world above are gathered and tucked away in the cold, pressurized depths. This process is slow, steady, and inevitable, matching the unhurried pace of the ancient currents we have been following through the dark. At the heart of this storage is a mechanism known as the biological pump. It is a beautiful, cyclical journey that begins at the sunlit surface, miles above our heads. There, microscopic plants called phytoplankton soak up carbon dioxide and sunlight to create life. When these tiny organisms are eaten, or when they eventually drift toward the end of their lives, that carbon begins its long, slow descent. It hitches a ride on the flakes of marine snow, those soft white particles we saw drifting like winter flurries as that snow falls down through the twilight zone, past the midnight zone, and eventually toward the abyssal plain. It carries the carbon with it deep into the interior of the planet. Some of it is recycled by the creatures of the deep, but a significant portion settles into the soft, thick sediment of the seafloor. Once it reaches that velvet ooze, it is effectively removed from the atmosphere, locked away for centuries or even millennia. This makes the deep ocean a silent, selfless guardian of our atmosphere. Without this constant downward drift of carbon, the world above would be a much warmer, harsher place. The abyss acts as a buffer, a cool, steady hand on a fevered forehead, absorbing the impact of change and maintaining the delicate balance that allows life to flourish under the sun. It is a service performed in total darkness, far beneath the awareness of those who live in the light. We can rest deeply because the ocean is doing this vital work, breath by breath, flake by flake, in the stillness of the deep. Yet, even as we recognize the ocean as our protector, we are humbled by how little we truly know about the space where this work happens. This guardian is still a stranger to us. We have mapped its chemistry and measured its temperatures, but the sheer scale of the abyss remains one of the final great frontiers of human knowledge. It is a vast, watery library where most of the volumes have never been opened, and the ink is written in the language of shadows. As we drift further into this quietude, we begin to realize that the most profound part of the deep ocean isn't just the life it sustains or the climate it regulates, but the immense, beautiful mystery of what it still hides from our sight. We are traveling through a world that is mostly unknown, a place where every shadow holds a secret yet to be told. It is a strange and humbling thought that we often know more about the distant, dusty surfaces of other worlds than we do about the blue heart of our own. We have gazed through telescopes and sent rovers millions of miles across the void to map the craters of the moon and the rusted valleys of Mars with exquisite detail. We know their topography, their chemical makeup, and their ancient histories. And yet, the vast majority of our own ocean floor remains a map of shadows and approximations. Only a small fraction of the deep seabed has been seen by human eyes or captured in high-resolution sonar. The rest is a vast, silent expanse, a wilderness that covers more than half of our planet, yet remains largely unvisited. It is as if we are living on a house where we have only ever explored the hallway and the porch, while the great vaulted rooms below remain locked in a peaceful, eternal twilight. In this great unmapped territory, discovery is not a rare event, it is a certainty. Scientists often remark that nearly every time a research vessel lowers a camera or a robotic arm into the deepest trenches, they find something that has never been named by human language. They find delicate, translucent fish with fins like lace or tiny glowing crustaceans that look like jewels scattered on the dark sand. There are estimated to be hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions of species still waiting in the dark, living their quiet lives without ever having been touched by the flicker of a human flashlight. It is a world of infinite variety, where nature has had millions of years to experiment with form and light, far away from the reach of the sun and the rush of the surface. There is a profound comfort in this mystery, in a world where so much feels documented, measured, and broadcast. The deep ocean remains a sanctuary for the unknown. It reminds us that the earth is much larger, much older, and much more complex than our daily lives might suggest. There is a beauty in realizing that we do not need to have all the answers. It is okay that there are places where the light of human knowledge hasn't yet reached. We can find a sense of peace in the idea that the planet still holds on to its secrets, keeping them safe in the cool, dark pressure of the abyss. The unknown isn't something to fear. It is a vast, soft voice where the imagination can rest, a place where the mind can finally stop searching and simply exist. As we drift further into these final moments of our journey, we can let go of the need to understand or to categorize. We are moving beyond the realm of maps and into the realm of pure wordless sensation. The weight of the water above us is like a heavy velvet quilt, pressing down with a gentle, steady force that tells our bodies it is time to be still. We are preparing now for the final descent, not just into the deepest parts of the sea, but into the deepest parts of rest. The currents are slowing to a near halt. The bioluminescent sparks are becoming fewer and softer, like embers in a dying fire. We are approaching a state of perfect, unbothered quiet, where the only thing left to do is let the darkness carry us the rest of the way into sleep. As we settle deeper into this profound stillness, it is worth reflecting on a simple, staggering truth. We often think of our world as a place of bright sunlight, green forests, and open skies. But in reality, the total darkness of the deep ocean is the most common environment on our planet. It is the true face of Earth. More than 70% of our world is covered by water, and the vast majority of that water exists in a state of eternal velvet night. This darkness is not an absence, but a presence, a vast living space that has remained unchanged for millions of years. It is the primary habitat of life on our planet, a silent kingdom that dwarfs the sunlit lands we call home. When you close your eyes and let the darkness behind your eyelids expand, you're actually aligning yourself with the most natural state of the world. You are stepping into the great majority, joining the silent rhythm that governs the heartbeat of the earth. In this space, there is a physical sensation that is unlike anything on land. It is the feeling of being completely and utterly held. On the surface, we are always aware of the pull of gravity, the weight of our own bodies against the ground. But in the deep, the density of the water provides a perfect three-dimensional embrace. It supports every limb, every joint, and every muscle with an equal, steady pressure. Deep-sea creatures do not struggle against the weight of the ocean. They are part of it. They are cradled by it. Imagine that same liquid density surrounding you now, pressing softly against you like a heavy, warm blanket that fits perfectly to every curve of your body. There is no need to hold yourself up. There is no need to tension a single muscle. The water is doing all the work for you, suspending you in a state of weightless grace, carrying you through the dark as if you were drifting in a dream. There is a deep sense of belonging here. We often forget that we too are creatures of water. Our bodies carry the chemistry of the ancient seas within our very veins. To return to the thought of the deep is, in a way, to return to our oldest home. We are not strangers to this watery world. We are a part of it, separated only by time and evolution. As the currents move around you, imagine them whispering secrets of a long-forgotten peace. You are part of a vast, interconnected system that spans the entire globe, a network of life and movement that never stops. Even when the rest of the world is asleep, you are safe here. Tucked away in the deepest reaches of the planet's memory, we have traveled so far tonight. We have left the bright dancing waves of the surface behind, passing through the fading blues of the twilight zone where the last hints of the sun disappeared. We have descended through the midnight zone where the only stars are the ones made of living light. We have felt the pressure become a comfort and the silence become a song. Now, we find ourselves in the final, most peaceful layer of all, the place where the water is oldest and the world is quietest. Everything we have learned, the glowing jellies, the ancient glass sponges, the slow-moving currents, all of it serves to remind us that the world is a gentle place when you look deep enough. The rush of the surface is a world away. Here, there is only the slow, steady pulse of the deep and the knowledge that you are exactly where you need to be. The darkness is your sanctuary. The water is your cradle. You are ready now to let the last of your thoughts drift away, like marine snow falling into the abyss, settling softly into the quiet earth below. As we reach the end of our journey through the deep, let us return to the thought of a single drop of water. Think of one specific molecule caught in the great global conveyor belt. It began its descent 1,000 years ago in the frigid reaches of the North Atlantic. It has spent 10 centuries traveling through the dark, moving south past the equator, rounding the frozen coast of Antarctica, and drifting slowly into the deep basins of the Pacific. For 1,000 years, it has known only the stillness and the cold. It has moved at a pace slower than a human heartbeat, never rushing, never struggling against the vastness of the sea. It has witnessed the passing of ages from the safety of the abyss, untouched by the winds or the worries of the world above. Now, that same drop of water is here, cradling you in its ancient, patient embrace. It has all the time in the world, and so do you. There is no urgency in the deep. There is only the eternal rhythmic flow of the planet, breathing in slow 1,000-year cycles. The living lights of the midnight zone are beginning to change now. The brilliant flashes of blue and the shimmering rainbows of the combed jellies are softening, losing their sharp edges. The bioluminescent stars that surrounded us are fading into a dim, steady glow, like the very last embers of a fire settling into the hearth. This soft, pale light doesn't demand your attention. It simply exists, a gentle phosphorescence that makes the darkness feel warm and inviting. The starry sky of the ocean is tucking itself in, the living lanterns dimming one by one as the creatures of the deep settle into their own rhythms of rest. The visual world is receding, pulling back like a tide, leaving you in a space of pure velvety shadow. It is a darkness that doesn't hide things, but rather protects them. It is a blanket for the mind. Take a slow, deep breath, feeling the air fill your lungs, and then leave you with a long, effortless sigh. If your eyes are still open, let the lids become heavy as the water a mile above us. Let them close gently, sealing out the last of the light. Imagine yourself drifting now, no longer a traveler, but a part of the current itself. You are weightless. You are supported by the density of the water, held in a three-dimensional embrace that removes all tension from your shoulders, your back, and your limbs. You are sinking very slowly, not into a void, but into the softest bed imaginable, the fine silken sediment of the abyssal plain. This is the quietest place on earth. It is a sanctuary of silence that has remained undisturbed for millions of years. The hum of the ocean is your lullaby now. It is the sound of the world at peace. The distant vibrations of the earth and the slow, low-frequency songs of the whales have faded into a single, steady frequency of calm. There are no more facts to learn, no more mysteries to The science of the sea has led us here to this moment of total stillness. You are safe. You are healed. You are part of the great watery history of our planet. As the last of the thoughts drift away like marine snow settling on the sea floor, let yourself be carried into the deep. The water is still. The dark is kind. The journey is complete. Sleep now, drifting on the silent currents of the deep, deep sea. Sleep.